Right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course, we've got some fun stuff to talk about. Hillary Clinton managed to do it again. That's going to be probably my favorite story of the day. That or the echidnapus. Yes, indeed. Let's go through it. First, we've got to analyze some of the presidential betting odds. This is separate from regular polling. This is sort of the betting markets, who they predict is going to be the next president. We have seen a major change over the last couple of months since, well, technically only the last month in the presidential betting odds. This is the race between Trump, Biden, all of the others, the also-rans and the people who aren't running at all, who for some reason are still in the mix, like Michelle Obama, even though she's come out and said explicitly, I'm not running. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no presidential ambitions. By the way, I actually believe her when she says that. She's not a politician. She's just the wife of a former politician. I think she's being truthful. Hillary Clinton is complaining about women voters again. This was a big thing right after the 2016 election. You remember with the Pink Hats? And Hillary, after she had her drunken night throwing bottles at people, and Podesta had to come out on stage and say, well, it's not over. Everyone go and get some sleep. We'll come and address you tomorrow. And then they had to clean her up, clean the vomit off of Hillary Clinton in order for her to give her concession speech. One of the first things she did was blame female voters. That really endeared her, by the way, to one of her main core audiences. We've got to talk about Memorial Day. Of course, it is Memorial Day. Earlier, I was going to go to the bank, and I had forgotten that it was Memorial Day, and I was going to go to the bank, actually, to cut a couple of checks. And then I got halfway there, and I'm like, oh, why are the roads so empty? Ah, shit, that's right. It's a bank holiday. And so I just came back. Talking about World War III and how we have to avoid triggering that. Probably a good idea. Again, a little radioactivity in your food. It glows in the dark. It's easy. You can farm at night. That's perfectly fine. But, Fallout real life is probably not as good as Fallout the game. Trump has announced that he's going to commute the sentence of Silk Road founder Ulbricht, actually, if he's elected, which I strongly support. This was at the Libertarian Convention. It was effectively a pitch to get the Libertarians to conceive of voting for him. He accomplished his goal. So there's two stories here. First, the commutation. I support it. I think it's a good idea. Secondly, the political strategy involved, actually, by Donald Trump. Speaking of Trump, as Trump trial hurdles towards verdict, are Americans paying attention? No, not really. Actually, it seems like a lot of people have stopped bothering to talk about it entirely, including commentators, including political commentators. Which is admittedly a little bit on the strange side. You've got to understand, this breaks over 200 years of legal precedent in the United States. I still suspect that you're looking at probably a hung jury or a not guilty verdict, but we'll see, because no matter what happens, it makes history. So we'll see what happens with that. And finally, Australian archaeology here. They have found a new kind of animal. Actually, a bizarre creature dubbed the echidnapus, which they believe roamed Australia in prehistoric times. Fossilized pieces of the animal's jawbone found in opal fields in northern New South Wales. So it's a monotreme and apparently looked like a platypus mixed with an echidna. Only Australia can possibly spawn a creature like that. We'll be talking about that. Morgan, is the YouTube chat broken on desktop for anyone else? Yeah, I've actually, I have noticed that chat has some problems. It sort of depends on what you're posting. They're becoming more censorious. It's a big fucking problem. It can raise can you put a poll on YouTube to see who your audience is likely to vote for? Also, when are these long form videos on their way? Clank from the middle of the night, Australia. I don't know which long form videos you mean. I already technically do long form. Poll. I would assume if I polled my audience, it'd be like 80-20 to Trump from my US audience. I'd have to put it on straw poll, because otherwise people have to have like a Twitter account or something like that. But yeah, I would assume that the average person following my particular content is more likely to vote for Donald Trump, considering my particular political proclivities. Andrew V, do you think the deep state will release Disease X before the election? No, I don't think so, actually. I think they'll fail this time around. They're trying to astroturf bird flu, but they're just doing that. They're not expecting it to go pandemic mode. They're talking about that for propagandistic purposes in general. I'm just looking at chat for a moment. Keep in mind, it's Memorial Day. I expect fewer people to filter in, or possibly more people since everyone's got the day off from work. Well, some people do. We'll see. I don't know. First, we got to talk about the betting odds, though. And by the way, I do have an MRE. I'm going to be eating this tonight. This is the Menu 10 chili and macaroni sent by Harlan Priest. You can follow him on Twitter. And he sent me a bunch of MREs. Another subscriber sent me a bunch. I've got, I think, 30 of them at the moment. Anton sent me the South African one. And I was thinking, you know, it's Memorial Day. Let's eat like the troops do. And chili macaroni. I don't think that I've tried this particular menu before. That's why I chose this one. Still got like 5 vegetarian lasagnas in there too. I am extremely happy about this, by the way. MREs are good. Tigers are my totem. Missed the last few live streams. Well, thank you very much for your donation. It's perfectly fine. We'll get to the betting odds here before we shout out the sponsors, and then we'll go to the rest of the news, by the way. I might keep it a little bit on the short side today. On Mondays and Wednesdays, I also go live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern with the quartering. So on those days, I have to conserve my energy a little bit more, and I've got a lot of work out in the garden still to do, edging, weeding. I've got to get the carrots weeded. They're finally coming up really well, so we will have some good carrot growth. I would like to point to something here. Well, several things, really. The betting odds are definitely in Trump's favor. He's above 51%. Biden is down below 40 right now. The betting odds tack pretty close to a true analysis of the polls, generally speaking. And so while they're not 100% reliable, they're a pretty good metric, actually, for dealing with the political, the feeling of the nation. And recently, you've had a massive spike for Donald Trump. Biden had been surging for a while there, in the wake of the indictment specifically. But he's lost all of that muster. It looks like he's tacking kind of back down to where he had been. He had been sliding off for a while. Then he shot up starting, what day? February, actually, of the year. He started piling up. Now he's on his way down again, but it's a precipitous drop. What I notice here when I look at these trend lines, link in the description, is that Trump appears to have effectively just cannibalized all of the betting odds support from everyone who's clearly not in the running. RFK Jr. is unelectable. He's a far leftoid, even worse than Joe Biden on some metrics. He can't get elected. Michelle Obama's not running. Gavin Newsom's not running. Kamala Harris is not running, although you could have a plausible scenario where Biden is incapacitated and she ends up the de facto candidate for the Dems. Nikki Haley, for some reason, is still at a point on the betting odds. So keep in mind, this is not exactly the same as, an aggregate of scientific polling. But what I notice here is that Trump all of a sudden skyrockets. He had been riding around 40%, about even with Biden for a while there. But he's managed to create quite a gap between the two of them, and Biden appears to still be falling. I think there's a reason for this. As you get closer to the election, more and more variables are shut. That is, that you could conceive of, like last year, take it for example. Last year, you could conceive of a scenario in which the economy suddenly picks up, actually does what Krugman and others would like to pretend that it's doing, and actually begins growing again. That would have helped Joe Biden. But now we're almost in June. You only have a few months until the election. So things like that, the possibility that Biden will wise up on the border, the possibility that you'll have a foreign policy success as you inch closer to the election becomes less and less likely. Trump's already got his record to run on. That's already set in stone. We know what he offers. We know what he did. We know what he said. With Joe Biden, he's still currently in office, and there's time to screw up or do well on something. But that chance lessens over time as you get closer to the election. The odds reduce for Joe Biden, I think, from here on out. And I think that's what's being reflected here. People are, even if they support him, they're less and less likely to believe that there will be a watershed moment in which Joe Biden manages to gain a couple of points, in which he manages to do something meaningful, and in foreign policy, domestic policy, economics, whatever it happens to be, that really gives him that boost that he needs. The only reason I think he's holding on right now, kind of, sort of close-ish to Trump, is because there's still the upcoming debates. That's where Donald Trump's running mate comes in, because one of those 3 debates is a vice presidential debate. I'm very interested in seeing who he chooses. I'm very interested in seeing how that plays out. My suspicion is it won't move the metric, and that's advantage Trump, because Trump doesn't need to move the metric when he's ahead in virtually every poll. Biden needs to move the metric. The onus is on Joe Biden right now as the incumbent to really make some sort of change, get one gotcha moment, pass one policy that isn't totally partisan, and time is running out. We're almost in June. I think the betting odds fundamentally reflect that. Killer Kriegsman, let's hope World War III can be averted. Thanks for the content, dude. Yeah, I know. I don't want that either. Jack the Reaper, Chili Mac is the best one. Yeah, I've heard positive things about that particular menu, so we'll be eating like a soldier tonight. Maybe I'll wear my M1 helmet while I dig into it. E. Lombard, happy Memorial Day to yours and all. Thank you. The Happy Plague Doctor. Top 5 things I should do for my garden today. Give it a good weeding, maybe pop in a few extra plants, maybe expand it a little bit or prepare to expand it. Delve into a bit of hugelkultur, delve into a bit of terra preta, biochar. You can't go wrong with that. M. While the chances of Trump getting New York is very unlikely, should still run a Mujahideen-type campaign in deep blue areas, put the Dems on defense. Yes, but they won't bother defending it. You need to look at areas that are marginally blue, Minnesota, Virginia, New Hampshire. If you can begin chipping away at those and get one of those states, well, the election's basically over. Mr. Repurpose sent $5. No comment, thank you. Ryan Adams, thoughts on Trump going full pro-crypto and the rise of crypto as a political platform. Trump said he would oppose a central bank digital currency. That is much to his benefit, politically speaking. He endeared himself to certain younger voters as the result of that, I think. Sassmaster, do you think Gen Z white guys are fighting back against anti-white sentiment unlike self-flagellating millennials? I feel a change in the air. Yeah, it's beginning to get old. It's boring and stale, and it's indicative of a past generation, so the kids ain't having it. I agree with you. Fire down below. There are libertarians who care more about hating Trump than freeing Ross Ulbricht. Yes, we'll talk about that, and I agree with that as well. It's very strange. Trip Boom, it's Trump all the way, baby. Yes, I'm on the Trump train. I'll be voting for him, as you can probably tell. Mick91, people get red in the face when I ask them who could possibly beat Trump. Then steam starts coming out of their ears. The NPC mind cannot fathom. Lol. Mina Bukowski, is the quartering going live today? Yes, we will be live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. I am his co-host. Viking Woman 1988, I am in front of the new Cheech and Chong dispensary in South Deerfield, Vermont. Just got back from Wilmington, nice and green in the Green Mountains. Yeah, look outside, the flowers are beginning to bloom and, all that stuff. New England asters is a huge patch of them. Got a good picture of that earlier. I'll put it on Twitter later for people to see. Cultivated Mind. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We are back, baby. CultivatedMind.com. A bottle of our brain, too. A new tropic blend is on its way to you, Sticks. Thank you very much. I'm assuming you got your energy refill. Let me know if you need more. Code STICKS. Yes, Radiant Energy. These are effectively mushroom extracts. I do not claim to know by what chemical methodology they give you a boost in energy, but they do, at least for me, work. I'm not being paid to say this. Well, I mean, you sent a super chat, but other than that, no. I got a few left in here. I think, yeah, I got plenty of these for now. I thank you very much, but I'll definitely be checking out the new tropics there. Hopefully it doesn't fry me out. Webster's Wares. Good morning, Clankers. 33% off site-wide at websterswares.com for Memorial Day only using code 33CLANKS at checkout. Custom Trump and Sticks merch available. Hoodies, hats, beanies, knives, and more. Your knives are awfully sharp, and I'm wondering if you had them pre-sharpened or did that yourself, because, yeah, I've gotten a few cuts, actually. The unintended. Sticks in my flower bed. A couple of flowers I planted seem to be dying. Am I lacking nutrients? And if so, is there anything I can add to give them a boost? You may have watered them too much or too little. There could be a nutrient imbalance. Something could have tunneled underneath them, a grub, a mole, or whatever. I've lost a few plants to mold damage, but it's much more limited than before. Those sonic mole repellers actually seem to work fairly well. Stephen Nizek, I just looked up the Libertarian Party primaries, and some guy named Charles Bellet earned over half of votes, yet his name wasn't even on the convention ballot. I'd ask why, but I'm afraid of the answer. Could be eligibility or something. It's Ken Reza. What happened with the red heifer in Israel? I read somewhere it's already been sacrificed. World War III incoming, if so. I don't believe they've done that yet, but they do have a number of these cattle in Israel, apparently. They do already have the physical implements that the Torah would require them to have, and the Midrash and so forth, to offer their sacrifice. The problem for them is that they're not allowed on the Temple Mount, so it becomes difficult. The Siren. 2 months ago, Arizona feds made it illegal to ask if you're from USA in order to vote. In Texas alone, there are 250,000 new voters being registered every 2 weeks without IDs. Their illegal votes plan. Don't worry about Texas flipping. It'll be a non-issue in the end. Just go and harvest some ballots. You know, two can play at that game now, can't they? Shiva Blaster. My coworker said her kids who were in high school were lectured about the alphabet mafia and became homophobes. Lol. Yeah, the kids are all right. They're always going to make, you know, edgy jokes because they're kids. Mike the Wop. Clink, clank, clink, clonk, motherfuckers. Moose F. I'm late. I just ended my hospital shift, downing beers and calling my old army friends from OEF 2003 to 09. Have fun with that. That's Memorial Day. We've got Chili Mac. Oh, now we have to do the merch partners really briefly, but then we're going to have some fun talking about Hillary Clinton. She's doing it again. She just doesn't understand when to quit. It's almost like I think that she has a grudge against the Democratic Party and is trying to make a headache for them like Rashida Tlaib has done in the last 24 hours with her Gaza comments. First and foremost, we have pumpkinfirecrafts.us. You can get bookmarks, keychains, belt chains, amulets, engraved spoons, and more available now. They work with leather and metal and other things as well. Lots available there. Use code STICKS, by the way. BiltongUSA.com. Again, use code STICKS for free shipping. You can get delicious meat of various kinds. Also got teas and crackers and things like that. Little snacks from his store in Roanoke, Texas, actually. And also you can get Sticks, Hex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts. wickedneedleembroidery.bigcartel.com, where you can get the famous Sticks, Hex, and Hammer hats in several different varieties and colors, of course. Offset Ouroboros, Central Ouroboros, whichever you prefer. HeritageHeirloomSeedCompany.com, the land of Sticks, Hex, and Hammer soapbox and the seed survival bucket. Most of the plants that you've seen in my garden updates are from them. Mostly did really well, like the cucumbers. Yeah, I'm McLovin' it with those. They're beginning to vine out. I got to trellis them later, actually, or maybe tomorrow. I have limited time. I've got to travel to Europe in a week, but things have to be squared away before then. Keep in mind, Sticks, Hex, and Hammer soap is the best soap. Smells like clove and cedar and blueberries. You can't really get much better than that. websterswares.com/sticks-wares. Again, use the code given before for 33% off site-wide for Memorial Day. Plenty of Trump stuff, plenty of stick stuff. I really like the metal straws because you can sort of carry it around with you and you never need the disposable ones that clutter up landfills. That's real environmentalism. It'll last a lifetime. You just have to clean it once in a while, of course. Jamandbean.com, JAMNbean.com, home of the Costa Rica blend of coffee that I like so much, as well as various others, as well as tea. I didn't know originally they made tea at all, actually. I went to the site, and it's like, okay, it's a coffee site. Then I realized they made herbal teas. Those are pretty good. They're nice and sniffy. MTPew.com, that is MTPEW.com, bearded grizzly ammunition for all of your shooting needs. There's range brass, and there's newly manufactured various rifle and pistol calibers. And finally, but not last but not least, rather, I'm trying to have a Biden moment there. Oops. BrickMuseum.com. In Blair, Ohio, there is a Lego museum. It looks huge, and I'm probably going to have to visit it. They're open now, so you can get your tickets. Tell them that Sticks sent you, because that's just good for everyone. I might want to show up and see the Lego collection because I spent many happy hours as a kid playing with Legos. I always thought they were fun. you know, you can get lost in your own little world and do whatever you want. And there are no rules. You can follow the instructions. You can ignore the instructions. You can try to do it without the instructions. And for some of the sets, that's hard mode, by the way. But you can do whatever you want. It's your little world. Gonna go Bob Ross mode. Natsock General. Coke should be legal, in my opinion. Yes, I do believe that. I'm not going to bother weighing in the Ricada thing because people have such strong opinions on it, but I do not believe that a person should be imprisoned for drug possession. Fire down below. Are you selling your crypto? If yes, then why? Well, because I want to buy other things. So I figured I'm not liquidating at all. Trust me, I am still bullish on Bitcoin. Disclaimer, I hold it, so I hope that the price rises. But I wanted to liquidate some of it in order to make a few larger purchases, and I figured I would just offset it with the crypto. It's Kenreza. MS wants to know if you saw the Sonichu curse. Sonichu seen on Nick Ricada before his fall, lol. No, DM me details. That sounds interesting. Yeah, no, there's this crazy dude called Chris Chan, and a literal motherfucker, allegedly. And he's out and about roaming the streets as we speak, and the world will never be the same. MF Damien, I was recently reminded that the Trump admin filed Espionage Act charges against Assange and started the extradition battle. How should he rectify this mistake? A pardon seems insufficient, in my opinion. Donald Trump won't rectify the mistake because it would be political suicide to do so, at least in the intermediate sense. He's not going to weigh in on it as a candidate. I do believe there's a possibility that he pardons Assange and has the charges dropped against him should he be reelected, because he can't run for reelection. That's just my gut instinct, but I'm not sure. He's not a purist on such issues. I wish he was more puristic, but he's not. Mike the Wop, still doing quartering stream on the holiday today? Hope all is well, sir. Yeah, I think that he's going live. I mean, if he's not, then I guess I get the afternoon off. I'm not sure. Actually, I should probably have asked him that. Whoops. Thank you to everyone reminding me of that. It's like I tried to go to the bank and then realized it was a bank holiday. The Siren. My apologies. The pine trees are fucking. What if they purposely didn't put Biden on the Ohio ballot just so they can cry unfair election when Trump wins to trigger destabilization? Like the Ohio ballot issue is the only reason Biden lost. He'll be on the ballot. Don't worry. And anyway, Ohio is so red that it wouldn't look conspicuous if Trump won it anyway. If it were a swing state like Pennsylvania, then it'd be meaningful. Ryan Adams, remember to pay capital gains tax. Beware the IRS. Yes, I overpay on my taxes. I take less of the offsets and deductions that I'm actually due in order to not have any problem should I be audited, and fully expect in the future that'll eventually happen. 40 kids sent my kid her allowance through a Cash App and it got lost from my bank to her app. Been trying to get the app to find it since February. Have you ever heard of this happening? No, actually, I've never used Cash App in my life. I use wise.com. Splifferton Sheldrake Sticks, I have a 10.2 as well. We should seduce AOC and try to touch tips somewhere between her cold dead heart and her corrupted womb. Ew. If ever there was a turnoff. Huns with Guns, if you ever receive a Sonichu medallion, throw it in a fire immediately. I'm thinking that that dude may genuinely be cursed. That there is something clearly mystical going on for some reason. He's a very bizarre individual. Claims to talk to Jesus through a mannequin or something like that. And I mean, I don't know. He's completely off the chain. He's off his rocker. That's why they let him go, because he's fucking crazy. If winter's loaded, if Biden continues doing a terrible job and Trump does more events in New York and New Jersey, are those states really off the table? Yes, they're off the table. There's a 99% chance of a Biden victory in New Jersey and a 100% chance in the state of New York. Trump is doing this mainly to drum up support elsewhere through the bravado and saying, hey, I can show up in one of the most blue parts of the country and get 80,000 people to show up. That really buffs up his campaign, but not there. It buffs it up elsewhere. Trev, Sticks, did you get to my cartoon question? Just a sec. I might have, sorry about that if I skipped it. What were your top 3 cartoons growing up? Also, check out Smiling Friends. It's a newish Adult Swim show, about 10 minutes each episode. Pretty damn funny. Yeah, I'll check it out. I liked Garfield. I liked Family Circus, because that one, yeah, I did, and what was the third one? I don't know what I mean, I like Dilbert. I liked most of the cartoons, but I can't really pick a third. What I liked is to take the cartoons and deface them. And I would always have people doing demonic or depraved things or saying something evil. And like usually in Family Circus, one of the kids would have like devil horns and a pitchfork and stuff. I used to deface them all the time. I wish more than anything that I had decided to keep all of the cartoonistry that I did, because it was just insane. I had Rudolph Hitler. That was where Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer was actually a dictator and fancied himself a fascist. I had the cartoons with my parents where my dad was depicted as the dictator, delusional kid who was a dictator of a fake African nation. And my mother was represented as sort of like being a raccoon. And, you know, they had various crazy shit going on. And then I would deface cartoons. Had a few others, but those I didn't do as much. I enjoyed that as a kid. Swamp Donkey. The Greater Idaho Project is something every red county should do. Join the nearest red state. The courts don't matter anyways. Leftists just ignore them. Starve the leftist cities of money and power. Difficult, but in some cases, plausible. Billy Howard. Check today's X video. Biden falling asleep on stage of today's Memorial Day event. Haha. I'll have to check that out. Somebody please link me. All right, time to get to the next news story. Now that we're half an hour in. Hillary Clinton is doing it again. Do you remember right after the 2016 election when one of the first groups that she blamed for her loss were female voters and said, well, they just didn't materialize for me. You know, they didn't actually go to the polls. And I was thinking to myself, your most hardened core fan base are feminists. That's probably your forte. If anybody is actually going to go and pull the lever for you, the people that are willing to wear the ridiculous pink pussy hats out there and do the primal scream therapy when they lose are probably the ones that did go to the polls. The fact is that Hillary Clinton lost due to a series of, for her, unfortunate, for us, very fortunate, mistakes that she made, like the basket of deplorables comment, her scrubbed autobiography, where she praised the TPP as the golden standard of trade deals, her poor debate performances, and the fact that she's simply unlikable. Over the course of a few months after the election, she blamed the DNC, the DCCC, female voters, rural racists. She blamed a Russian conspiracy. She blamed the Chinese. She blamed everyone but herself when she lost that particular election. I would note that she has never actually fully come around to accepting those election results and still pretends that it was some sort of international scandal to this day. We are now 8 years on from it, and she is still so she's bitching about it, and she always identifies the wrong group. If you want to have a political presence, you can't blame the very group that likes you the most. Feminist leftoid voters probably had a turnout in the 90s range, as opposed to left-leaning independents. That was the whole problem. She turned off independent voters. Biden's having a similar issue right now. Like, if he loses, is he going to come out and say, well, them Dearborn, Michigan Muslims done abandon me, or something Bushite like that? Yeah, a group of people. Yeah, there was some holdouts, but you'll probably still win the majority of those votes. But you lost the state only because of that. You didn't piss off union workers. You weren't a poor debater. You weren't mumbling and incoherent and tripped over your own words and your own feet at the same time. None of those things mattered. It was this particular small block of voters. That'll probably be his excuse too. At least in the case of the 2020 election, we can confirm that there were actual shenanigans. None of the shenanigans that Hillary Clinton blames ever happened at all. And then she dares to blame probably the single most loyal voting bloc that had her back. Imagine that you're a left-wing feminist voter. You wore the pink pussy hat. You did the primal scream therapy. You shouted from the rooftops and on Instagram about how Trump was a Nazi that was going to start World War III. And then the person that you supported literally within a week comes out and blames you for her loss. Yeah, I wonder why she decided to drop out of politics. I think she realized once she sobered up, she realized that she had no political future, I think. Swamp Donkey. 15 Oregon counties in the east of Oregon voted unanimously to join Idaho, which would net Idaho another electoral vote and prevent blue flipping of the state. Hope Washington state counties are next. Yeah, now it has to be codified by both state governments, though. So again, plausible, possible, yes. Difficult, yes, very difficult. Webster's Wares, curse that tree come 33% off site-wide using code 33clanks. King of Biltong, good morning from Anton's. Free shipping for your Biltong using code STICKS on BiltongUSA.com and AntonsUSA.com. We might be able to get some kangaroo. Would clankers be interested in oversized jackrabbit? Yes, sign me up, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. One thing, I actually had a couple of people, I gave some of the elk to several other people, and they thought that, I don't agree with this. So Anton, I'm not insulting it. I think the elk is the best. But as far as like, you know, consumer stuff, they thought that it didn't have quite enough flavor in it. So maybe put more of the anchovy sauce or something like that on it and, you know, get it a little bit more, you know, salty actually. I don't know. I kind of liked it, but yes, I would eat kangaroo in a heartbeat. I've had kangaroo before and it's delicious. Should try making alligator biltong. Not a banned account. If you don't vote Biden, then you ain't black. Yeah, I know. You know, you remember that incident. If you ain't figured out who you're going to vote for, you ain't black. You know the insinuation. The insinuation is, well, all the black people are voting for me because they know Trump is a racist. So, you know, whatever. But it didn't come off right. It was like Hillary Clinton on that black-owned radio podcast where she said, well, come on, man, I keep hot sauce in my handbag. And she devolved into like the Carolinian Southern slang, like the plantation grandma slang. It didn't go over well. There's a reason that she lost. Yes, I do like kangaroo. Joseph Jennings, do you actually believe that a candidate can roust all his political opponents and get away with it? Can roust them? Do you mean arrest them, like Biden's attempting to do? Yeah. No, I think it's possible, but I mean, it doesn't seem like he's probably going to get found guilty. And even if he does, it'll be an Elba moment. Remembering Memorial Day, we must avoid World War III. I think most of us can probably agree with this. We must avoid the successor to the Grand Reapers of the past century, World War I and World War II. We must avoid World War III. We should reflect on this during Memorial Day. I agree with the sum and substance of the article. Memorial Day is a day to remember the fallen. You know how, you know how I would like to remember them? As though they hadn't had to fall in the first place. We should be avoiding world policing and interventionism. Try to keep the troops home when possible. And if they're in foreign shores, they should be in allied territory eating MREs, like this one, which apparently is a favorite for some people. I believe in keeping our soldiers out of harm's way. Give them all the toys that make the noise. But go and blow shit up out in the desert. That's fun. You know, occasionally someone has an accident and drops a mortar on their toe or something like that, which happened to my dad in Vietnam, actually. It's the reason why his toenails are fucked up. But, you know, generally, you know, you don't have to worry about enemy fire. I fully believe in blowing things up. I fully believe in eating MREs, and I fully believe in jacking these dudes up and giving them all sorts of experimental drugs and shit like that if they're willing to take them, as long as they don't surreptitiously give it to them like allegedly they used to do in MREs in the 90s. It seems that that's not the case because I'm assuming that somebody's done chemical testing on the MREs and doesn't seem to have thought anything was wrong. Apparently they did put saltpeter in some of them, though, to try to prevent troops from getting an erection. I don't know whether they were trying to prevent war rape or just from them masturbating and wasting time. I don't know. The U.S. Army has done some weird shit. Just look at MK Ultra and LSD experiments. I would like to have a very, very strong military and then preferably not use it at all. Go blow up a mountain, dude. You know, here, we've got all these extra explosives. Well, it's almost the 4th of July. Let's have a fireworks celebration for all the troops at this military base. That'll be fun. Just fucking vaporize the whole fucking mountain. That's cool. It's fun. You get a bunch of young, especially dudes. They're you're flush with testosterone, young, strong dudes. They want to blow things up and shoot things. But you don't need to always, therefore, use that military to go in and invade some other country. Nobody can invade us. We've got too large a civilian militia. That's the other component of it. If we want to avoid World War III, we need a more well-armed population, because then things are less likely to pop off because nobody gains anything by invading you, even if they preemptively nuke you. They still probably lose in the end. That's why I believe in gifting that to Taiwan and selling them a shit ton of guns. I think it's a good idea. Help them defend themselves. Pumpkin Firecrafts, happy Memorial Day from all the beautiful Shenandoah Valley. 10% off store-wide using code STICKS. Yes, indeed. Swamp Donkey, accountability is kryptonite to the strong, empowered whammons. So expecting Hillary to accept any accountability is like expecting Biden not to shit his pants. Yeah, it's weird. She is incapable of looking at herself in the mirror and saying she did anything that could possibly piss off a single voter. But you called half the population deplorable and evil and extremist and bigoted and wrong. You subsequently threw all these people under the bus, so some of them were probably glad they didn't vote for her. I mean, imagine, again, you wore the pink hat, you did the primal screen, and yet you're still being told that you're the reason why she lost. And now everything's going to go to hell. Donald Trump is going to turn us into a Handmaid's Tale or something like that. Never happened, by the way. I noticed that never occurred. We didn't have World War III. We didn't become the Fourth Reich or something like that. Rambam 3000, a mortar shell or the launch tube? Mortar shell or the launch tube? I'm not sure. I'm assuming the tube. Joe Schmo, Hillary hasn't accepted the 2016 election results for 8 years now. Shouldn't that make her a threat to democracy? Or not? Guess she's not orange enough. Yeah, it's okay if she questions that election because Russia. F. Winters loading. Is the reverse racist virtue signaling and condescending fear-mongering from Democrats beginning to backfire? Yes, although don't call it reverse racism. That plays into their hands. It's simply racism. What will happen when their number one tactic goes to shit, and how come it took so long? Their id poll worked as long as they were keeping people down in the inner cities and stuff like that and trying to play people off against each other. But now that the population's demographics have changed, especially economically, it's no longer working as well. I think the internet has a hand in it as well. I think that now that people can get, ideologically speaking, they can get out of their communities. Like a lot of people, they lived in like a Lily White area or the black neighborhood or something like that. So they didn't encounter other people as much to communicate with them on as regular a basis. But now we're just a bunch of shit posters on the internet. You don't know if that person who's shit posting is white or black, but they said was hilarious anyway. Splifferton Sheldrake, $1 million idea. We could start a genetic testing service to identify the fathers of the offspring of ladies of the night and call it 10.2 and you. Goodness. Next news story. Trump announces he will commute sentence of Silk Road founder if elected president. Yes, Ulbricht, who did Silk Road. That was basically mainly to sell drugs, of course. I never used it because, I mean, I was at UVM, so I just had my drugs locally. I guess I could have gotten like DMT or something off there, but then I was like, I hesitated. When I thought about the concept of using them, like, okay, is it really worth it? Or should I do this like off of digital records so that I don't get in trouble? I found it to be potentially sketchy, and so I avoided it in the end. So I never bought heroin offline or anything like that. Never used hard drugs, actually, once in my life. Never used coke, heroin, anything like that. Crack, amphetamines, never touched them. The most I did was I took a Vicodin once, and it didn't do anything. And I was like, what the fuck do people even fucking use this for? Didn't make me relaxed. It didn't change the way that I acted in any way. I'm like, I didn't understand the point. I guess it wasn't powerful enough. Maybe it was a low dose and I didn't realize it. I support this completely. Ulbricht did nothing wrong. He created a service by which people could potentially break the law. I know that he's in prison for kind of roundabout other stuff, technically speaking, and there's a lot of convolution in that case. But I support, I do support releasing him. He's not a threat to society. He was very young at the time that he's developing this, tinkering around with tech and stuff, being sort of the meme lord, edgelord troll, and he got nailed for it. And they decided he needs to be in prison for 40 years plus. He's sentenced to 2 life terms plus 40 years for a nonviolent crime. Yeah, no, I know. Allegedly, he hired a hitman or some bullshit like that. I'm not sure that I accept the official timeline of what happened with Ross Ulbricht. It sounds more like he was punitively attacked by the system for stepping out of line and creating effectively a dissident platform that enabled other people. And we've seen this before. Much like earlier, I addressed Julian Assange, who I would pardon as well. And I'm hoping that in a second term where he doesn't have to run for re-election, Trump drops the charges against him and says, okay, enough is enough. I'm hoping that happens. I don't know if it will happen. but there's a possibility. You're not going to get that with Biden, certainly, if he's reelected. So you take that chance. But Ulbricht did fundamentally, at least in the sense of drug sales, nothing long. He said this at the Libertarian Convention. This is Trump. If you vote for me on day one, I will commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht, who will have a sentence of time served, Trump told the attendees, who broke out into applause after booing the former president on some occasions during the speech. Yeah, they like this part. He's already served 11 years. We are going to get him home. We are going to get him home. I can't find any reason why I would oppose this. I think that it's a wonderful idea. I can't imagine why anyone would oppose that. Sparky, greetings, fearless leader. Greetings to you too. Mind of a madman. Happy Memorial Day, Sticks. Yesterday was my birthday. Happy belated birthday to you. I like Trump going to the LP, and I passed my first test for apprenticeship for welding. Excellent job, my dude. Congratulations. FTL Ralph. Keep up the good work. Hot take, though, REVP. Trump doesn't need to manifest more votes. He needs a Kamala-like insurance policy against removal. There is a pitch to be made for that. But I think that you can have both. I think you can have someone that's dissident enough so that the system would hate them just as much as Trump and not want to remove him, while having someone that does bring home the bacon. I think that's Tulsi Gabbard, just my belief. Swamp Donkey. It's funny, the most racist people generally have the most diverse friend groups who also shitpost. Yeah, I know. It's like literally somebody who poses as a Ku Klux Klan member has like their best friend is black and stuff like that. Meanwhile, you've got NIMBYists who worry about needing to censor the online world, and they live in like lily white suburbs and stuff. Whereas most anti-racist people are the most homogenous and have the save the others complex. Yeah, and also the clout chasing complex as well. King of Biltong, my son looked at the computer and asked if that's Styx or Viva. Ha ha ha. That said, maybe make an appearance on Viva. That'd be cool. Terminator Trav. I've been severely addicted to Kratom for 5 years. I can deal with the physical withdrawal, but the mental part gets me. I just love getting high. How do I replace that feeling? Any ideas? It wears off after time, and so you're simply going to have to quit doing so. I don't know about the dangers of Kratom withdrawal, so I don't know if you can do that cold turkey or not. You're going to suffer. That's the way with any addiction. Try quitting smoking or drinking or anything like that. If you can get over that hump and past the initial stage of so take a vacation and don't have anything to do basically, but keep yourself busy anyway. That's the other thing with addiction. Sometimes it's because the person mentally is high functioning, and so it's sort of they're taking something that prevents them from having to constantly be busy. So make sure you don't have to do anything busy that's like for a boss or something like that, family time. And withdraw, but also try to keep busy. Go camping or something like that. Go on a desert island. By the way, please send no more super chats. I've got a couple of news stories to get to, actually, and I've got a bunch of chats here as well. Also, I need to eat at some point, I don't know, maybe that, something else. Some biltong. It's Ken Riza. Would you donate to a charity, or are they all corrupt tax dodges at this point? I'd have to look into the charity. But yes, I have done charitable works before. I prefer to do it myself, though. Like, the garden is full of crops. I'm never going to be able to eat them all, even with all the help that I've got around. So probably donate half of it to a food shelf. Webster's Wares. Happy belated George Floyd Day. 4 years sober. Knew we could do it. 33% off using code 33clanks at websterswares.com. Yes, it's also George Floyd Day. That's the leftist Memorial Day. Certain death. Funnily enough, Scott Adams was on the same side about Ulbricht earlier today, saying the CIA may have been annoyed Silk Road was rendering their pet cartels moot. I think that's probably what happened, yeah. It's Ken Reza. Just imagining you doing a shave for a cure. Bald sticks for 24. That's one thing I can't do. Although if I ever get to the point where, my hair is inevitably going to go, like if I get cancer or something, I'll definitely shave it off first. Not a banned account. How'd we go from marriage equality to story hour? Because of people who take advantage of idpol for their own private gain. Sparky. Nuclear war is nothing compared to recurve bow war. Lucky us clankers are the only ones with recurve bow technology. Yes, Attila calling. That was a major advantage when you're using a bow on horseback. And yeah, that was understood at the time. As Trump trial hurdles towards verdict, are Americans paying attention? The answer is yes and no. Mostly no. Tomorrow, you're going to get the final sort of closing arguments thing, and then the court case, the final stage begins. We're not sure exactly when there's going to be a verdict here. Once that happens, people will be paying much more attention. But right now, I'll tell you why they're not paying attention. Same with the Jack Smith case, Fulton, and because they're all on hold. Right now, you've got a period of time where there's nothing going on in this particular court, although it is proceeding. Smith's case is indefinitely postponed. Fulton is on hold as well. Try to determine whether Fani Willis can stay on the case. The others are just civil matters, so those, that's an order of magnitude less, newsworthy. Jean Carroll, you've already had a case and a cross case with regards to her, so nobody gives a fuck. Nobody even talks about it. With Letitia James, again, that's on bond. We're not sure what happens. In the end, all these cases could be thrown out. Once you get a verdict, though, regardless of what that verdict is, guilty, not guilty, maybe guilty on one charge, not guilty on the other, hung jury, it's going to be legendary anyway, simply for the fact that this is the first time that a former president has been prosecuted in our nation at all. It's a banana republic moment. Banana republic minus the economic indicators of a banana republic. Of course, I hate to tell people this. I love linguistics. I understand what you mean when you say the U.S. is devolving into a banana republic, but generally speaking, that's mostly an economic term. A banana republic is an authoritarian democracy in name only that has like a monocultural export, literally like bananas. That's where the term came from. It doesn't necessarily equate to the kind of situation you see in the United States. I would say oligarchy. Malevolent authoritarian oligarchy works better. Maybe more complex. You can encapsulate the meaning more easily with banana republic, but then somebody might point out that the economy of the United States is fairly diverse. Biden's trying to change that and make us reliant on foreign interests, but whatever. I would say in the end, the case probably results in a hung jury. If it does have a final verdict, you could see any number of hodgepodge scenarios. It could be that they symbolically find him guilty of one charge and let him go on the others. Then you grapple with what comes after. If he's found not guilty, or if there's a hung jury, well, if there's a hung jury, then the news will be, well, will Alvin Bragg retry the case? So you get chaos. If he's found not guilty, the liberals will have a nervous breakdown, resulting in chaos. If Trump is found guilty, then they have to scramble to figure out how to punish him, possibly alienating the liberals, possibly causing revolutionary fervor, thus chaos. Well, it's going to be chaos no matter what happens. They never should have begun the case in the first place. They should have ignored it completely. But they chose not to do that. Pigar, happy birthday, Harambe. Tony the Greaser, sup cats and chicks, stay cool, stay confident, stay greasy. Again, though, while I appreciate the money, please don't send any more super chats because I got to get through this last story. By the way, over 5,000 people watching live right now. I thought that there'd be less people because it's Memorial Day, so people are out grilling and stuff like that. How many barbecues am I at right now? Now, I can almost smell the hot dogs as we speak. Give me one of them fucking burgers. I take my burgers well done like Razor Fist. If it's a steak, medium rare, Tomahawk steak, ribeye, T-bone. Australian scientists discover ancient echidnapus. Yes, there's an artistic recreation of what this animal may have looked like, by the way. Oh, I should probably say links in the description to all of these news articles cross-platform. If you're watching on YouTube, pinned at the top is my books blog. You should check that out too and get some of the books that I've written and edited. There's hundreds of them available. They come highly recommended by me because I made them in the first place. But you can also check out the news links there and then read it for yourself. If you do have time, and it's Memorial Day for many of you, if you're in the United States, you should read the news. And not just the little tagline. Read the whole article. Your eyes will be open to how easy propaganda is to manifest. Scientists have discovered a bizarre creature dubbed the echidnapus, which they believe roamed Australia in prehistoric times. Fossilized pieces of the animal's jawbone were found in opal fields in northern New South Wales, alongside evidence of several other ancient and now extinct monotreme species. So they're popular in Australia because it's one hell of a weird continent. Would love to see it sometime, and probably get thrown in jail for my political opinions, though. Officially named Opialos splendens, the new species has been nicknamed for its resemblance to the platypus and echidna, which are the only egg-laying mammals in the world today. So we're looking at Something real fucking bizarre. The team behind the research say it indicates that Australia once had an age of monotremes in which the incredibly rare order of animals were abundant and dominant. It's like discovering a whole new civilization, the lead author, Professor Tim Flannery, said. The array of fossils were found about 25 years ago by paleontologist Elizabeth Smith and her daughter Clyde while they were going through the discards of an opal mine. They donated the specimens. They should have kept them and sold them. Estimated to be about 100 million years old, to the Australian Museum, where they sat forgotten in a drawer until about 2 years ago. If you were to go through all of the libraries and museums of the world and check out like the discard in the basement section, we could rapidly expand human knowledge on things like archaeology and paleontology. The specimens are already there, but in some cases they're gathering dust. They're in a box somewhere. Every once in a while, some old library, somebody finds the secret bookshelf and they find an array of books that weren't even known to exist, or it's like the only original copy, or some handwritten account that analyzes some ancient work that might not even be extant anymore. And it's fascinating because sometimes they're found in people's homes too. You know, like some hand-bound volume. It's called the Little Black Book tradition up in Scandinavia, where homes would have their own little grimoire, effectively, grammar book, where they would have folk recipes. There were cooking tips and tricks and stuff like that. The family would build upon it for generations. Hundreds of them have been found. There are probably hundreds, maybe thousands more that are still extant. They could be literally behind someone's walls, sitting there in the middle of Iceland or a fishing town in Sweden. I find this fascinating. I really like history. But yeah, so they found a new species. Technically, they found it a good long time ago, but now they're finding out, oh, this is a unique species, and it looks totally bizarre. Look at the artist rendition by Peter Schouten of the Australian Museum at the Lightning Ridge Opal Fields. Yeah, that's one interesting looking animal. Looks a little bit like a, I don't know, like a mammal and a dinosaur and a platypus all fucked together and produce some sort of bizarre genetically retarded offspring. Not a banned account. Add women to the U.S. draft. Equality now. I believe in equality between the genders by ending the draft. Pumpkin Firecrafts. It's only just now noon on the East Coast sticks. Lol, still a little early for barbecue. Hope everyone has a wonderful and safe day. Yeah, I had hot dogs last night and I slathered them with goat cheese. Oh man, it was so great. Ripsidian, if you can make your own recipe, you are a god. I do that all the time. For some reason, I didn't know that I could cook until a few years ago, and then all of a sudden I just sort of took it up. I inherited the latent can cook gene from both of my parents. So my mom bakes a lot, does a lot of casseroles and stuff. My dad was a chef professionally for decades and decades at the Mountain Creamery in Woodstock, Vermont. And he makes, let me tell you, his tomato basil soup is pretty good. Although I've got him on Greek pasta. I can make better Greek pasta. The secret is caraway. Caraway seeds. Slightly grind them, put them in the vinaigrette. Just trust me about this. So yeah, Australia has a new ancient species that's known to exist there, or at least they're fomenting the concept based on these bone fragments found in an opal field. How interesting. And of course, like with everything else in Australia, like the bogans and everything, it looked weird and probably was poisonous and, you know, attempted to kill everything that moved, just like everything else that lives in Australia. You go outside, even the plants are hunting you. I'd love to see the country, but I don't know. I'd like to have like full body armor on and a couple of guards, I guess, because, you know, you never know if that plant is going to start walking towards you and trying to hit you in the head with spikes or something. Webster's Wares. Have a great day, Clankers. Last reminder, 33% off using code 33clanks at websterswares.com. Memorial Day only. Clank, clank, baby. Thank you. So yeah, I think I'll go offline now. I should probably DM the Quartering because I'm not sure if he's going live because it is Memorial Day. I don't know. He might be spending it with his family or something. I'll go on live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern if he is going live. Otherwise, I'm going to take the afternoon off and gorge myself, maybe? Do extra gardening? I don't know. Colleen Welch, end the draft, coming from a veteran and the daughter of a Vietnam vet. Yeah, we should end the draft. It's unnecessary. Mike the Wop, what percentage of wild animals are mentally challenged? Most of them, especially if they've got Democratic Party registry. Anyways, yeah, I've got to go offline here so I can get a snack, you know, chug some V8 and shit. I'll be back tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern with your daily news live stream. So don't worry, everyone. I'll be back. That's about all. Peace out.